Topical issues are MALAISE conspiracies. Today I'm going to talk about disease. Malady is the word and fear is and destruction is the reaction. They come in different forms. New diseases, new area, and new frontiers. First, it was the bubonic plague, a disease that caused pale blue bubons or swellings and caused painful deaths. A disease that goes down in history as being one of the worst. It killed many people. But when you go to history, you realize that certain generals, certain individuals, like Gothenburg, son of Hulagu, grandson of Genghis Khan, was busy using bodies of dead victims, using catapults as a weapon against the great city in the present Iraq at that time called Kufa. But historically, scientifically, we are left blaming the black rat and the flea. Very interesting. Those are the happenings, those are the writings in history, and that is the finding in science. But when it went and it has never occurred again. People talked about that disease. In Europe, those who believed in God, according to history, because again there are challenges that may come when we are talking of Mussolini giving the Vatican area to the church in 1945, and the history that is supposed to be several hundreds of years, so I don't know which comes where. But historically said that the Pope at that time, people approached until they went there for godly intervention. And even the Pope was unable to do anything. Nobody was able to do anything. In fact, they decided to declare River Tiber a burial ground because it was so dangerous for those who were carrying. Others, bodies were being buried, and many of the people who were burying were dying too. So the bodies were thrown into River Tiber in that place. But then, stories also historically emerged that humanoid figures will be seen wearing masks and spraying in the nearby places. And immediately those humanoid things were seen, there would be an outbreak of the plague. Still a mystery, but it's very confusing. You cannot be able to relate which came before which. But you find there are some conspiracies within. That one cannot be denied. One person is using the same body as weapons. They are not dying out. Some places where prayers and everything cannot work, that one sometimes it does. They are being thrown in rivers. And some places where people say they have seen things like humans spraying in dark attires and deaths begin. It's something to rack your mind, but there are some conspiracies there. Then came the conquistadors. Was it polio or something of the sort? They go to the Americas, and many of the indigenous Americans, when the conquering is happening, conquistadors, conquerasi, when that is happening, there are rumors of infected, purposely, deliberately infected blankets being given to the Native Americans and wiping out almost all populations because they didn't have the resistance. So question is, was it a plague? Was it a conspiracy? And in most of those countries, people who settled are of the stock of the people who originally conquered. A mixture though. The natives are very, very few, very, very few, struck by a disease that knew they had no immunity. Well, things went on, and this one happened during my lifetime because there was a disease that was not there. And even I was proceeding, I was almost finishing school, and a new disease enters the scene. Acquired immunity deficiency syndrome. Epicenter, beginning or epicenter, yeah. San Francisco in the United States. It devastates the world. All over, everybody was afraid of it. People are dying, or people are getting buried in gunny bags. I remember the Ugandan musician who came out bravely to announce to people what they should do so that they don't get that disease. Philly Lutaya was amongst the first people to come out in the open. That time he was staying in Sweden. Was it Sweden or somewhere? Some of those Nordic countries, I can't remember the exact name, came out and sang about it. And blame was rhesus monkeys, Africa, close interaction of Africans and monkeys for food and other interactions. It happened even in the country where it started, hit out more on the black population. Nobody knows why. But eventually, the origin was supposed to be Africa. Then came something that many people have not known. A disease that struck weakening people in a city called Lyme in the United States. People blamed it on some experimental island nearby. Scientists blamed it on a deer or an antelope and people moving into lands that were occupied by animals. So now they are being struck by new diseases that the animals were carrying. But people kept insisting an experimental island could be involved. Reality, scientific, or, or the authoritative reality was a certain tick is spreading the disease from the antelopes to the people. The disease is still a mystery. Then came which came first? Was it the Marburg virus? Yeah. Africa, bats. Bats were spreading the Marburg virus. Okay, and whatever. And still people went on arguing, still up to now, their arguments, their debates. It appears occasionally and disappears occasionally. Now came the killer that was very scary. Ebola came on the scene. People trembled. There was a complete shutdown in places so that Ebola could not get people. You bleed from all orifices. And there it was. When I went to people because I had an interest in collecting material, video material, educative material, to a video shop someplace, and suddenly somebody realized I loved conspiracy theories and everything, and he told me, gentlemen, there these things, move on videos, and I managed to get 2 move on videos. And in one there was a conspiracy of a spacecraft having crashed at the border of one great country and another country that is not scientifically good. So the scientists from one country that were not scientifically good got the spacecraft, but the makeup of the bodies was such that when they entered, they all died. I think because of the makeup of what was contained in there. A country that knows how to handle such a things took that away, and everybody relaxed as if nothing had happened. But there was fear that Ebola could have been an experimental weapon from the bodies of those that were in that alien thing. So it came to, that was from MUFON files. Those files were fished from my computer. So right now I know people will ask and say, this guy is just saying his own things, but where is the evidence? They were fished. I think I'm still being hacked up to now. I don't know if it's also part, or if it is part of the paranormal that I was talking about. That was a thing, a crash, a weapon. But the truth, is it monkeys? Yeah, monkeys, something of the sort. Then came the great one that put the world on its knees. Coronavirus. We thought the world was ending. This is something that was recent, we all experienced it. For the first time, we had attires for our mouths and for our nose. There was another guy who not only would say, have you put on the boxer over your, you know what I mean? We had boxers for the nose and the mouth as we move. And there was talk in the United Nations level of suspicions. But the explanation was simple. Some people may have been eating bats in some place, and the new virus migrated from the bats and infected humans. But some countries that have knowledge of chemical weapons were seeing something fishy in everything. It was a drama that was played out to all nations. That time everybody was very sensitive about Ebola, about Corona. There were vaccinations. Every country was struggling to get vaccinations, and now it has stopped. Blame the bat. Others blame the human. Others blame the birds, a bird flu. So that's how it ended up. Those are the realities we were given. Those are the other theories that we were given, the conspiracy theories. I'm not blaming any country, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm simply asking this question. Do we still sit assuming everything is okay? Or do we take mitigation measures? I've always been talking about this. Let's start creating some vaccines. I don't have that, but countries should think along those lines. Because anything can come from anything, anytime. And we shall have theories, we shall have realities, but people will die. We don't have to wait until the earth comes to a standstill like it did during the Corona thing. There may be theories within human beings, conspiracy. And now that we accepted there are these things that fly and we don't know what they are, which is a good acceptance. It should have been done in the first place. When you don't know, you don't know. Just say they are seen. They come, we don't know. If you know a bit, you know a bit. Because from that move on file thing, it's a conspiracy thing, we may say. But it appears there are certain nations that are very knowledgeable in handling such affairs. It's interesting. Yet they are not there, those things, and yet we. So let's be realistic. Let's put up emergency protocols, have vaccines for the common known diseases that have devastated populations, have vaccinations for the virus and the bacteria that you are weaponizing. Those ones you know they are there. Have vaccines. Just in case they fall into wrong hands of criminals and whatever. People can have something to mitigate with as we find out what is happening. Let's not be sitting ducks. It has happened in the past. It is still happening. We know there are countries with that capability, and they know what they have weaponized. So why can't the world have vaccines already? Just in case. Because you never know those who are weaponizing what intentions they have for the future of the fellow humankind. We've had that. We've had paranormal activities trying to control the mind. And most of it may appear to be innocent. But I smell a rat at the end of that. That's my own opinion. Maybe if you can reason by yourselves, you may also have the same opinion. It's not well. Let's not just sit, relax, and assume everything is okay. While we know there are dangers even surrounding us. Others officially known because they have been made for weaponization. And others that can crop up because criminals can take advantage of such a situation. Let's not take everything to be a conspiracy. Because historically, up to now, whatever I've been saying shows that there are some question marks within these conspiracies. That is my take for now.